Chosen one, the truth is, your sexual energy is bringing you profound blessings, and right now people are actively competing for your power. You have carried this magnetic presence your whole life. People tried to dismiss it as mere charisma, beauty, or even intimidation, but none of those labels explained the disproportionate reactions you trigger. What you carry isn't just a practiced social skill, it is a deep, vital frequency that others recognize instantly. Your sexual energy, and understand right now that we are not talking about something small or shallow, is the single most transformative force running through the human body, more potent than ambition, more generative than discipline, more disruptive than pain. It is your life force, your creative current, the fire that powers your intuition, births your ideas, magnetizes your presence, and moves the atmosphere of every room you enter before you open your mouth. In a chosen one, in someone spiritually awake, energetically aligned and carrying divine purpose, it does not just attract, it activates. This is the gift, and here is the part nobody warned you about. Every extraordinary gift casts a shadow. Not because something is wrong with the gift, because the light it produces is too bright for certain spaces. When you walk through the world carrying that kind of light, you do not just illuminate things, you expose them, and not everyone wants to be exposed. Watch how this unfolds. You walk in, not performing, not trying, just present in your full frequency. The person who was comfortable suddenly is not. The relationship that seemed solid starts showing its cracks. The dynamic that had been functioning on silence and avoidance suddenly cannot maintain the pretense. You did not touch any of it. Your frequency did. Because real light does not ask permission before it illuminates a room. Everything in the room, every beautiful thing, every hidden thing, every real thing, every fake thing becomes visible the moment you arrive. That is your gift. And the chaos that has followed you through life was never evidence that the gift was a curse. It was evidence that the gift was real. Counterfeit things do not generate that kind of reaction. Only the genuine article does. This is not a story about what was done to you. This is a story about what you have always had, what certain people have always wanted, and exactly how you reclaim every single piece of it. Before we go further, there is something happening inside you that deserves its own moment, because you have always had access to intelligence that most people spend their whole lives trying to develop, and somewhere along the way, you were taught to distrust it. Your body knows. Long before your mind reaches a conclusion, long before the pattern is undeniable, your body knows. It knows when someone in your space is not who they are presenting themselves to be. It knows when a connection is feeding you versus feeding off you. And the specific way it communicates is through your sexual energy, that life force current running through your core that cannot be persuaded, does not lie, and has no interest in being polite about what it detects. You have felt this as a tightening in your chest around someone who smiled too wide, a drop in your gut when someone said exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, a sudden flatness in a space that had been alive seconds before a specific person entered it, a warmth and expansion in your body when someone genuinely aligned came close. These are not coincidences, these are not anxiety, these are your sexual energy functioning as a precision instrument, reading the frequencies around you and reporting back in the language of sensation. Here is what nobody told you about that intelligence. It is more accurate than logic. Logic can be manipulated by someone skilled enough to construct the right narrative, but sensation cannot be edited. Your body does not have an agenda. It does not want to believe someone. It does not want to be proven wrong. It simply reads what is there and tells you. Every time you overrode that signal, every time you talked yourself out of what your body was clearly communicating because the optics were good, or the words were right, or you wanted it to be different, you paid a price for that override. Every single time. The chosen ones who move in real power have learned to trust the body's report over the mind's wishful thinking. Your life force does not send you warnings for entertainment. Every signal it gives you is accurate information about what you are standing near. Stop apologizing to people for the accuracy of what your body already told you about them. Someone new enters your world. In the beginning, they are drawn to you in a way that seems like genuine admiration. They say the right things. They reflect your energy back to you with what feels like recognition. And something in you opens, because being truly seen, not just desired but actually seen, is something you have wanted for a long time. But then something shifts, subtly at first. More is needed from you than is given in return. Your ideas start appearing in someone else's mouth. Your clarity starts informing decisions that were never credited to you. The more you give, the more there is to take, and the taking never quite calls itself what it is, because it is always dressed in the language of love, or friendship, or loyalty. And you, because your instinct is to be generous with what you carry, keep giving, keep being the source, and then one day, always one day, either the person leaves or turns on you, and you are standing there trying to figure out what happened, what you did wrong, where the connection went. If you felt called by this message, hype this video so other chosen ones like you can be reached. You were not being loved, you were being mined. Your energy, your insight, your creativity, your light, all of it was wanted. But the work required to generate any of it independently was never done. So the connection deepened, the frequency was fed without ever being cultivated. And when the supply felt like it was shifting, when you started to wise up or pull back, or simply have a season of needing something in return, the operation stopped being profitable. You were not loved poorly because you were not enough. You were targeted precisely because you were too much, more than anyone could generate on their own, more than most people know how to honor. And here is what the miners never account for when they choose their target. The mine does not run dry, it concentrates. And a concentrated mine, properly guarded, does not just produce more, it begins to produce consequences for anyone who approaches it with the wrong tools. That is coming. Keep watching. There is a specific kind of person the previous pattern does not fully capture. And if you do not know how to recognize this kind, the encounter becomes the most expensive one a chosen one can have. There are people who have learned through years of conditioning or deliberate practice how to mirror the frequency of whoever they are standing near. They do not show up with obvious need or obvious agenda. They come in matching your frequency so precisely that your body's first reading is recognition. They feel like resonance. They reflect your language, your values, your energy, your enthusiasm back to you with such accuracy that something in you exhales. Finally, someone who actually gets it. But there is a crucial difference between someone whose authentic frequency genuinely matches yours and someone who has simply become skilled at replicating whatever they encounter. Real resonance does not require maintenance. A genuinely aligned person does not need to monitor your reactions to keep adjusting their output. They simply are who they are, and who they are meets who you are. But replication requires constant calibration, and in the gaps, in moments of stress, in conversations that go somewhere unexpected, in situations where real priorities are quietly revealed, the replica cracks. You have experienced this. Connections that felt like finally, and then slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, began to feel like effort in a direction you could not name. Like you were working to maintain something that had felt effortless at the start. That is the signature of replication revealing itself. The way you protect yourself is not suspicion. Suspicion is a closed door, and closed doors cannot receive what is genuinely meant for you. The way you protect yourself is consistency over time. Real alignment holds under pressure, under boredom, under disagreement, under the ordinary friction of two real people navigating a real world. Performed alignment cannot maintain itself under those conditions. The real frequency always eventually surfaces, and when it does, your body will tell you. This time, you will know to listen. Right now, people are competing for your access, not for a real relationship with the full, complicated human being you are, for access, for proximity to the frequency, for a position close enough to your energy that some of it might drift in their direction. They are positioning and maneuvering while you are simply living your life, completely unaware that a game is being played with your name at the center. Watch the people around you when you shift your attention from one person to another. Watch how quickly someone who was indifferent becomes intensely interested the moment someone else shows interest. Watch how someone who had no opinion about you suddenly has a very strong one the moment you stop being available in the way they expected. That is not drama, that is not bad luck, that is the competition responding to what it perceives as a shift in availability. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action, and real chosen ones are also paying attention. You've noticed it, chosen one channels getting silenced, videos pulled, voices removed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and neither should you. That's why joining Destiny Engine is a 360 win. You support your favorite channels and fuel your own rise at the same time. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. They are not competing with each other. They are competing against themselves. Your energy is not a prize that goes to whoever is most persistent or most clever or most willing to play the longest game. It is a frequency that resonates or does not. It is a sacred current that either meets its match or exposes the mismatch. You cannot out-strategize alignment. You cannot scheme your way into resonance with something real. Your energy is not passive. It is not a resource sitting still waiting to be claimed. It is intelligent. It is alive. It is a detection system that reads intention before the mind has finished forming words, and it responds to what it detects, always. The competition thinks it is competing for you. It is actually walking toward its own exposure. And you, just by being fully yourself, by staying in your frequency, by refusing to dim and refusing to perform, you are the space in which every person who approaches you is tested, not by your design, by the nature of what you carry. Your aura does not feel neutral. To anyone living in dishonesty, performing a version of themselves they have not actually become, managing secrets, avoiding truth, carrying unresolved wounds beneath a functional surface, your presence is not comfortable, it is triggering. Not because you say anything, not because you do anything, your frequency interacts with whatever is real in them and calls it forward. Everything they have been suppressing starts rising. Every lie they have been maintaining starts feeling heavier. Every mask they have been wearing starts fitting differently. Your aura does not seduce, it unmasks. It does not invite people into fantasy. It insists on truth. And some people will burn the whole connection to the ground rather than face what your energy is pulling to the surface. This is why you were called dangerous without doing anything dangerous. This is why people who seemed stable before you arrived become unstable after entering your orbit. It was never you, it was the reflection. And rather than look honestly at that reflection and do the work it was calling them toward, they made the mirror the problem. The unmasking is not a side effect of your energy. It is a feature. It is divine quality control. Every person who has run from you, lashed out at you, tried to diminish you after getting close, that person was not rejecting you. That person was failing the test that your presence administers automatically to everyone who approaches, and some of them were supposed to fail it, because someone who runs from their own reflection in your energy is not someone who was built to stand beside you. That person was built to be moved by you, disrupted by you, sent back to themselves by the encounter. The chaos that has followed your path is not a curse. It is the footprint of real power moving through a world built for ordinary. And once you stop interpreting the disruption as evidence that something is wrong with you and start reading it as confirmation that something is extraordinarily right, everything changes. Your posture changes, your choices change, what you allow changes. Because a mirror that unmasks does not just expose the people who are not ready, it reveals with equal clarity the ones who are, the ones who stand in your presence and do not flinch, the ones who feel the charge and lean in rather than pull back. Those people are coming. The more clearly you understand your own power, the more quickly you recognize them when they arrive. Now we reach the pivot, where everything that has been scattered starts to concentrate, where you stop being the person things happen to and become the person who chooses what happens next. Here is the secret, that the people who most wanted access to what you carry did not want you to know, because if you knew it, the whole dynamic changes. Your sexual energy is not something that gets depleted by use, it is something that gets depleted by misuse. The entire distance between a chosen one who is exhausted and a chosen one who is unstoppable lives in that distinction. When your life force moves toward aligned things, toward creation, toward purpose, toward connection that genuinely honors what you carry, it does not drain. It circulates, it deepens, it feeds the very source it came from. But when it leaks toward misaligned things, toward people who are extracting rather than exchanging, toward connections that require you to perform rather than simply be, it does not just diminish, it scatters. And a scattered fire is not a smaller fire, it is a confused fire, a fire that warms everything and ignites nothing. Chosen ones who guard their energy do not become cold, they become concentrated, and concentrated fire does not just heat a room, it moves mountains. This is also the mechanics behind how your preserved energy generates real movement in your life. Your sexual energy is creative energy. This is not metaphorical. The same force that is spiritually your most generative current is the source of every idea that has ever arrived with a charge that made you sit straight up. Every project that seemed to build itself, every solution that appeared with such clarity, it felt like it came from somewhere outside you. That was your life force running clear and purposeful through a channel that was not blocked by misuse. When you stop leaking your energy toward draining connections, your creative output does not just improve, it accelerates. Intuition sharpens in ways that produce real results. You move away from something right before it goes wrong. You reach toward the right person at exactly the right moment. You make a decision that looks impulsive from the outside, but was being quietly assembled by a frequency processing information your conscious mind had not yet catalogued. What the people watching you call luck is your signal running clear. The blessings moving toward you right now are frequency sensitive. They are calibrated to a version of your energy that is concentrated and purposeful rather than scattered and depleted. As long as your life force was leaking through misaligned connections, those blessings could not locate the signal. When you pull the energy back, when you seal the leaks, when you stop giving your creative current to containers that were never going to build anything with it, the signal clarifies, and what was always moving toward you finds you. When people cross certain lines with you, when they access you at the deepest levels of intimacy, trust and vulnerability, they have entered a spiritual agreement, whether they know it or not. Whether they came with good intentions or calculated ones, your body is not just a body, your trust is not just an emotion, your full presence is not just a social experience. These things are connected to your calling, your divine assignment, the reason you exist in this form at this specific time, and when someone accesses them, something in the universe takes note. People who have accessed you on the wrong frequency, who came with manipulation dressed as love, with extraction masked as care, do not walk away neutral. Something in their life begins to shift, not immediately, not always dramatically, but with an inevitability that would strike you if you ever traced it. Clarity fragments in areas that had nothing to do with you. Peace that was accessible before your paths crossed becomes harder to locate. Things built on dishonest foundations begin to crack, and the cause remains invisible to them because the gap between the violation and the correction makes the connection unrecognizable. This is cosmic order functioning exactly as it was designed. The universe does not need your anger to defend you. It does not need your attention to maintain your protection. It moves on your behalf whether you are watching or not. But here is the other side of the soul contract, the side that is the actual point. When someone comes to you in genuine alignment, arriving clean, honest, humble, ready, being in your world does something remarkable to their life. Creativity flows, purpose clarifies, something in them that was dormant wakes up and starts moving. Because your energy, when it meets genuine resonance, does not just attract, it multiplies. It activates in aligned people what could not have been activated any other way. You are a turning point in the story of everyone who truly encounters you, an activation event, a cosmic before and after, and the ones who understand that treat your presence as the extraordinary gift it is. Everyone else, the universe handles. There is something that has been operating in your favor without you directing it. Your silence, your withdrawal, your decision to stop engaging, not dramatically, not with a closing argument, just a quiet pulling back, does more to reveal the truth of a situation than any confrontation you could have staged. When you go quiet on someone who has been feeding on your frequency, you do not just remove yourself from the equation. You remove the only thing that was making their equation function. Think about this carefully. Someone operating near your energy had access to a version of themselves that felt more capable, more creative, more alive than their baseline frequency actually produces on its own. And when you withdraw, the loss is not just your presence. It is the elevated version of themselves that your frequency was enabling. This is why silence from a chosen one produces such disproportionate reactions. It is not about a message going unanswered. It is about the person confronting the deflated version of their own frequency when the borrowed elevation is no longer available. Some spiral. Some manufacture a drama as a way to force re-engagement, because even conflict restores some contact. Some attempt a slow reinsertion, the casual message, the indirect reach through mutual connections, because even a small re-engagement restores some of what was lost. None of that is yours to manage, but understanding it changes how you hold your silence. Your silence is not absence, it is a declaration. It is your energy pulling back into concentration, removing itself from spaces that were treating something sacred, like a public utility. When you stop engaging, you are not punishing anyone. You are returning yourself to yourself. And the reaction that produces is the loudest possible confirmation that what you carry was real, was significant, and was running far more of someone else's operation than they were ever honest enough to admit. Now let's talk about the specific moment, the one that separates a chosen one who understands their power from one who is still learning the cost of forgetting it, because there is always a moment. You have faced it before, you will face it again. And what you do in that moment determines everything that follows. The moment looks like this. Someone who had access to you comes back, not with obvious aggression, not with the version of themselves that was easy to decline. They come back softer, more aware, or performing more awareness. They come back with language that sounds like growth, with the specific words that your energy always responded to, with a version of themselves that looks just enough like what you originally hoped they were to make the door feel reasonable to open again. Here is the actual test. Not whether you feel the pull. You will feel the pull. Your sexual energy is generous by nature. It wants to expand toward what it recognizes, even when what it recognizes is a skilled replica of the right thing. The test is not the feeling. The test is what you do with the moments after the feeling arrives, whether you let your body's next response, the quieter signal that has no interest in being persuaded, complete its full transmission, whether you wait long enough to hear the whole message instead of just the first line. Because the first response your body gives you when someone from your past reappears might be recognition, but the full message, if you wait for it, almost always includes the rest of the history, the weight that settled in after the flattery faded, the specific way your energy moved differently around that person than it did in other spaces. Your body does not forget what your mind negotiates with. A chosen one who has done enough work to understand their power knows to wait for the full report before making any decision. People can change. Genuine transformation is real, but genuine transformation announces itself differently than performed transformation. It does not immediately seek to restore the original access. It is patient because it has nothing to prove. It does not need quick confirmation. Performed transformation, on the other hand, creates urgency. It pushes toward the restoration of access before the consistency that would confirm it has had time to establish itself. Every time you hold the line when holding it costs you something emotionally, you add to your power. Not because sacrifice is inherently noble, because choosing your own alignment over someone else's comfort tells the universe exactly what you believe you are worth, and the universe calibrates its response accordingly. People are obsessed with you, not from a comfortable distance, but in the personal, relentless, why can I not stop thinking about this way, that makes people behave in ways that confuse even themselves. Your name comes up in conversations you never started. Your movement, your energy, your availability is monitored with a consistency that does not match the casualness performed to your face. People who have told themselves and others that they have moved on check for signals of your presence with a frequency that contradicts the performance. You are the currency, and here is the thing about currency: it does not chase. Currency sits in its value and waits for people to understand what it is worth. It does not beg to be spent. It waits to be recognized by someone wise enough to understand what they are holding. Here is what you need to understand about the obsession. It is not about you as a person. It is about what being near you made certain people feel about themselves. When you were open and available and giving generously, your energy enabled a version of them that felt more creative, more purposeful, more capable, more alive. They mistook your energy for their own growth. They believed the elevation was coming from them, not from the exchange. And now that the exchange has shifted, the elevation has gone with it, and the ordinary version of their own frequency does not feel like enough anymore. That is not yours to fix. That is an invitation for them to do the work they were avoiding. Your energy was never supposed to be a substitute for personal development. It was always supposed to be inspiration for it. The difference between someone who grew because they knew you and someone who became dependent because they knew you is the entire point. Your energy is not a replacement for doing the work. It is a demonstration of what the work produces, and the ones who confused those two things were never your people. They were your lesson. There is a conversation happening about you that you will never be directly included in. And knowing what it sounds like will change how you understand the footprint you have already left on the world. Right now, in private conversations, in the quiet of someone's own internal monologue, there are people processing questions about you that they have no coherent framework to answer. Questions like why they cannot stop comparing every new connection to you, why things that were satisfying before they encountered you feel insufficient now, why their standards for what they are willing to accept in a relationship shifted after spending time in your world and have not shifted back, why your name still surfaces in their thoughts long after the connection ended. What they will not say, what they do not have language for, is that your sexual energy activated something in them that their own frequency could not have activated alone. You were a catalyst, not for what you did, for what you are, and catalysts rarely receive credit for the reactions they produce. They are often blamed for the disruption and quietly responsible for every good thing that emerged from the other side of it. The person who leveled up after knowing you called it personal growth. The person whose last relationship finally ended after encountering your energy said they just changed. The person who started creating again, or started moving toward purpose again, or started holding standards they had never held, none of them credited you directly. But if you could trace the activation point for any of those changes, you would find it somewhere in the vicinity of their encounter with what you carry. You are a catalyst. Most of the change you generate in the world is attributed to anything and anyone other than you, and that is fine. Because the game you are playing is not about credit, it is about impact, and the impact of your sexual energy on every person who has genuinely encountered it is already written into the fabric of their lives, whether they have the grace to acknowledge it or not. You do not need anyone to say it to your face. You can feel the truth of it in the way certain people orbit, in the way they return, in the way they cannot quite leave completely, even when they have done everything to perform leaving. That is your power, operating, always, without your management, without your effort. You have heard everything laid out across every section, the frequency, the mining, the competition, the shapeshifters, the preservation, the soul contract, the silence, the obsession. And there is a moment that happens for chosen ones, when all of these pieces lock together and produce something that cannot be undone. A recognition that does not just change how you think about yourself, it changes how you move, how you hold your body, how you decide who gets your time and who does not, how you respond when someone tries to run an old approach on a new version of you. The mirror breaks. Not the mirror that unmasks other people, that one stays, the mirror that was pointed at you, the one that all the wrong people held up to make you doubt what you saw when you looked at yourself, the one that made your frequency look like a problem, the one that framed your power as the reason you were too much, the one that took every piece of evidence that you were extraordinary and reframed it as evidence that you were difficult, unstable, or cursed. That mirror breaks now. You were not the temptation, you were the mirror that shamed the counterfeit. You were not the chaos, you were the truth that chaos was organized to contain. You were not the problem, you were the revelation that certain problems had been waiting to avoid. Every single person who called you too much, too intense, too powerful, too real, they were describing something true about you from a position of being unable to handle it. That does not make their label accurate. It makes them a witness to your power, who lacked the capacity to celebrate what they were seeing. And this recognition does not produce anger. It does not produce bitterness. It does not produce the need to prove anything to anyone. Because the chosen one, who has arrived at this moment, does not need proof. The proof has been running on its own for your entire life. Every room that shifted, every person who could not move on, every connection that left the other person changed while you kept growing, every blessing that appeared in the wake of what you released, every door that opened not through strategy, but through alignment. The proof was always there. You now have permission to read it correctly. That moment I asked you to hold at the very beginning, where the conversation changed, and someone went quiet, and someone moved closer, and you had done nothing except arrive. Revisit it now. With everything you understand, with everything you have walked through in this story. That shift was not random. That was your frequency announcing your divine assignment to every spirit in the space before your mouth opened. The person who went quiet felt their own unprocessed truth rising in the presence of yours. The person who moved closer recognized something their spirit had been looking for. The conversation that changed shifted because real energy does not allow shallow things to continue undisturbed. Every part of that moment was your power at work, not your effort. Your power, not your performance. Your presence, not what you were trying to do, what you simply are. You walk in knowing your frequency is announcing something before you speak. You walk in knowing that the discomfort you cause in certain people is not evidence of your wrongness but evidence of your truth, meeting their avoidance. You walk in knowing that the competition you can feel in certain spaces is not about you as a person, but about the power people sense in your presence and cannot stop wanting proximity to. You walk in knowing the right people will lean in rather than flinch, and that the ones who flinch were never meant to stay. You walk in sealed, concentrated, unapologetic, not arrogant, because chosen ones do not perform superiority. They embody purpose, not cold, because guardedness is not the same as absence. Present, fully, completely, undeniably present. The blessings moving toward you are not coming because you finally figured out the right performance. They are coming because you stopped performing. They are coming because you concentrated the fire instead of scattering it. They are coming because the frequency you carry has been clearing the path, collapsing what was false, and building the conditions for what is genuinely aligned to land. You were never the chaotic one. You were the clarity that chaos could not survive near. You were never too much. You were exactly enough for everything that was actually meant for you, and nothing that was not. You were never just magnetic. You were prophetic, not just a presence, a turning point. For every person who truly encountered you, for every door that opened, not because you forced it, but because your frequency confirmed you were ready to walk through it. Guard your fire, not because you are fragile, because you are extraordinary. And extraordinary things deserve protection that comes not from fear, but from the deep, unshakable knowledge of what you carry, what it is worth, and exactly who was always meant to receive it. The people who were meant to compete are competing. The people who were meant to be called forward by your energy are already moving toward you, following a signal they cannot explain but cannot ignore. You are not waiting for the story to get good. You are the reason it already